Check, check. Can you hear me? Thank you, Glitterbean. What's up, Ranch? Glitterbean says, thanks, everyone. First time I got COVID, and I really don't recommend it. Yeah, it's really not a joke. Honestly. My whole household had it. I mean, you're good if you're a young kid, but if you're like over the age of 30, yeah, you're going to be in for it. For sure. Hey, Jules. Jari. Kimmy. Lesbian. Good to see you. Don't be a Richard. A little smack. Hey, hey. Miss Thang. Good to see you. Jill. True Crime Housewife. Welcome. Hi, all. Sup, Sleuth? Hope all are well. Derek, did you get my email? I sent about 5 people an email with the link. Feel free to join at any point in time. Oh, sorry to hear that. What's up, Candy? What's up, Brett? Good to see you. Hey, Mel. Good to see you. Mel, not sure if I have your email. If you would like to join me, click that link. I sent it out to a couple people. CD, Fig, I think Bill. Sent one out to Bill. Now, if you want to join, hit that link. I put the RTV6 footage in slow motion. I figured we'll just watch that. It's about 45 minutes long. And chat away the time. So anybody that wants to join is more than welcome. I will hit play here in just one moment. No, okay, hold on, Derek. Let me send you the link one more. Well, actually, I posted the link. The link is there if you want to join, Derek. It is right there. Should be posted and pinned. Good to see everybody. Tax cut. What's up? Good to see you. Hello, Lisa. Vanessa Marie. Hey, Vanessa. Good to see you. Sure, Derek. We'll probably be here for maybe a total of 2 hours. And we're just getting started. So at any point, if anybody wants to join me live between now and then, feel free. D, you are live.
Woohoo! I'm so excited. Like, I loved your phone number idea, but it's going to cost me a fortune. I'm so glad you're back to StreamYard. Woohoo!
Calls should not be costing you money, D.
Well, it wasn't an 800 number to call into the show, so.
Oh,
Anyways,
you,
whatever. I'm just so glad we're back.
yeah. What's up? What's on your mind? What's going on?
I'm so confused now. Like, is he BG? Is he not BG? Did he kill the girls? Didn't he? I am pro unseal those records. The warrant thing. Like, I think that that's a good thing.
Nice.
I'll say it.
Good.
Hate me if you want to, whatever. But
Um,
I worry about the families. I know it's what they want, but isn't it like part of your guys' laws in the states that you have to show that kind of proof why they were arrested?
yeah, but if you're not from America, how can you criticize our laws? D, come on now.
I'm not criticizing the law. I'm just saying,
Don't
like,
make me go to Canada because I will. I'll fucking
oh,
do it.
it's a long trip for you. So no, you
Sounds
don't want
cold too. That's
it.
more of like a blanket or an empty threat.
It is cold here, but it's like 69 tonight, so that's kind of warm for this time of year. Usually we have snow by now.
So is that why you called to say you're pro? Like, give us the information.
Like, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I don't know. Like, if it's going to harm the case, no, don't. But just hurry up and arrest the other people.
Well, that's the thing. We don't know if they're going to arrest anybody else or if they're even intending to arrest anybody else. Um, the my honest opinion is they knew that they were going to keep it sealed. Eventually, the case would move to another court, and they would rule to unseal it. I think that it would help a new judge by keeping the case sealed until that judge was able to completely kind of grasp the situation. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get you.
So what else?
I think that Carroll County is a good place to have the trial. I don't know if they will or not, but
Well, the jury pool isn't the biggest, but I mean, in some of the high profile cases that I've been looking into, a 400 person jury pool should be enough for any jury to find people. And keep in mind, it's up to the court to decide whether or not these people are fair and impartial.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Of course, there's going to be a couple characters that are like, hey, yeah, I'm fair and impartial. And then you go look on their Facebook and they're like, burn this guy at the stake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But people on YouTube like you and ID, there's no possible way we're going to have any influence on this case whatsoever. Even though that
Mm-hmm.
judge might have used it as an excuse, um, it's just all part of the plan, and we're not going to have any effect on anything. The jury, the judge, the court, and the judiciary is going to do their job, and they're going to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that the jury's good to go. Anything else?
Nope. That's pretty much all I got to say.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks for having me. Get up here,
Thanks, D.
farmer. Bye bye.
Bye. All right, great call from D. She's probably the best moderator I've ever had, and somebody who's very passionate about the case. Hey, Cody, WWE fan. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. I recommend everybody checking out Cody and his channel. He's covered the Delphi case over the years. He's done a great job. I highly recommend his channel. Go check him out, especially if you're into wrestling. Bam, that's your guy. What's up, Cody? Oh, yeah, D is awesome. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and hit play. And we're just going to hang out. This is about a 45-minute video. We'll stop and go along the way. I slowed it down by about 25%. What's up, Zen? Bad girl. Period. For sure. Hey, just the facts. What's up? All right, let's talk about this. Haven't seen you in a minute. Just the facts. It's always good to see you. Great comment says charge somebody with 2 counts of capital murder and you seal the probable cause affidavit. But leave the tip line open. Dangerous for the case and our judicial system. See, that's the part that nobody gets. You know, um, it's good to back the family, but sometimes a family, like they've already got their man. We don't know what their motivation is now. They've already got their guy. To me, I think that the family kind of wants to help cut these guys some slack. It could be very overwhelming for that, for this, especially for that judge. And Becky Patty specifically has a lot of power. She can wield a lot of power with social media. I mean, if she says something, I'm definitely going to get her back. You know what I mean? What's up, Digital? Wonder why law enforcement went to Richard Allen's house before they had the warrant. Well, it's because they had the evidence and they knew that they could detain him. Why waste time? We have the evidence. We're in the process of getting the warrant. Why waste time? Let's just go over there now. We can detain him out front. And when the warrant comes through, never know. Maybe there's like some weird leak or something, gets a heads up. Yep, tax cut. And we're going to stop right when it becomes visible and talk about that. Hey, there's Microwave. Good to see you. This is the RTV6 footage. This is actually about in between, I think, 11 and 12, just before the bodies are discovered. So this would be on the 14th. They're still searching for the girls at this point. I think at some point during this footage, they discover the girls. Well, I believe they detained him on suspicion of murder. And then once they got the search warrant, I think they found more evidence and they were able to just straight charge him. Yeah, that's a good point, RA. Yeah, it's kind of scary. It's a good point, D. The lesbian historian says, is that the bridge he would have had walked across to get to his house? No, but we'll stop at that point. This is actually right here. What you're seeing now is very close to the Freedom Bridge area and more that surrounding area. Sorry, Derek. Well, at any point, man, we're going to hang out for a minute. I'm not in any kind of rush. This is basically Insomnia Crew, really. Thanks, Vanessa. In the yard, but hurt someone theorized it could have been one of his animals that died, which seems plausible. I'm not sure. What's up, William? Good to see you. I really don't know. I'm really not sure what's going on. You know, people are just blindly, oh, we should keep it sealed. You know, it's just really strange. Makes no sense. I mean, there's one thing to keep it sealed. You can just redact. I mean, you could redact the whole thing and then release it. Yeah, Miss Thing. We showed that early on. Olivia says, "Is it true that Ron, or Richard Allen wasn't on law enforcement's radar until the neighbors reported something was stolen from his property, leading law enforcement to charge Richard Allen? At which time Richard Allen's DNA would, yeah. See, that's a rumor, and it's almost like that's the part that they're trying to hide. So we're still speculating that Keegan Klein had anything to do with this, but really, I mean, imagine if he didn't. Imagine if this guy who looks like the bridge guy, um, as a well-known person, wears a blue jacket, sounds like the bridge guy. I mean, I just don't know how to explain it, guys. It's either they knew and some part of this investigation was just kind of creating a monkey wrench and everything. I'm not sure. Um, but concealing that probable cause affidavit, it's like the cherry on top, you know, it's a strange shaped cherry on top of just a strange case overall, in my opinion. Yep, that's a felony. Yep, every felony comes with the DNA test. Those truck all parked 25 yards from the bodies. Yeah, it's true. Why would anybody do that to those girls? Completely senseless, and that's why only wonder. Yeah, why? Like, how is this even possible? All right, here we go. I think we're getting into the bird's eye view footage here. All right. Yeah, I think there was a DNA match as well. I just don't think his DNA was in the system yet. And if they did question him, I think a lot of them hiding the probable cause has to do with them questioning him around the time of the murders and not taking his DNA. All right. So if you guys can see down here at the bottom right, there is a shack down there by the water. I don't know if you guys can see it down there. That is east up or against the stream up the Deer Creek. Oh, and another strange thing. Do you guys see this water right here? The upper right hand side. That is the water that's going behind the K. Weber residence. And the K. Weber residence is right across the creek from where the murders took place. A lot of people don't realize that there's water that flows back there. See the creek back there? Richard Allen is about 5'6", 5'7". Yeah, it's possible, William. Most don't think it's likely, but yeah, it's possible. Some amazing plot of lands right there and some homes. Very, very beautiful. Yeah, the stolen tool theory came from a Reddit post, and the Reddit post also mentioned within that post that he came forward early on as a witness. Now, I'm going to be really pissed if he came on early on as a witness and they didn't get his DNA. I mean, talk about a blunder. And I really hope that's why the probable cause affidavit isn't being sealed. It's just a fear. I don't think that that's the reason why, but those are the fears that I do have. Yeah. A lot of people talk about those dogs. Those dogs could have led him possibly through those woods right to the killer. I don't understand that. Yeah, psych. I didn't hear Kelsey, but I know that they talked a lot about the reward, and it sounds like somebody should be seeing a reward coming. So if they if somebody should be expecting the reward, it sounds like there should be a tip, right? And if anybody's out there that tipped this in is watching, I mean, thank you. I mean, um, I don't care what took you so long. Just thank you for doing that. If this is based off a tip and it's not related to a Keegan Klein or investigative process, and it's all based off of a tip, I mean, my hat is off to you. And I hope that somehow you get that reward money. And yeah, thanks again. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm thinking there was some panic, maybe an attempted sexual assault or kidnapping. Yeah, for sure. Panic, maybe attack one, chase the other one. Once you finally capture her, there's a crime that takes place there, and then you just go get the other victim and bring her across the creek and then do your weird posing stuff over there. No, all out of panic. The lesbian historian says that makes me think they didn't have a suspect's DNA. Well, I think they did. He just didn't have a criminal past, apparently. All right, I think this is where they pan over to his location. Yep, that's what I'm thinking as well. They might have had other matches they didn't want to talk about, and that could be why the FBI was involved. Man, those lots are just beautiful. Yeah, that Weber lot right there is amazing. No, he's 5'6". I know it says 5'4" in some reports, but I mean in his mugshot he's 5'6", 5'6", 5'7". I don't know who keeps saying 5'4", but if you look at his mugshot, they measured him. William, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
How you been, man? I know it's been a while.
Good. Hold on one second. Haley, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, so we got William and Haley. What's going on, guys? William, you first, buddy.
Yeah, hey, I know it's getting late. I got to be up early tomorrow. I just wanted to jump on here for a few minutes. Through this whole, this is just such a heartbreaking case in so many ways. And there were so many mistakes that were made early in this case. But as I said a little bit ago, I can't believe they called those dogs off. Those dogs could have been such a big help in this case, and they possibly could have led right up to Richard Allen's doorstep if he is truly the killer, you know?
I agree with that.
Big mistake.
Huge mistake.
Big mistake. And I heard apparently the detectives were searching Richard Allen's home for 12 hours, I heard.
Well, they had him waiting for, I believe, about 4 to 6 hours, and then they came in and searched for another 6. So they detained him for 6 and searched for another 6.
Do you think they got their guy in this?
I think they got, if not their guy, one of the guys. I just don't know.
Yeah, I still think there's an open door in this. I really do.
I think he's the bridge guy, if that's your question. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just still think there's an open door in this. And hopefully that gets, closed very soon.
Haley, what's going on? How are you?
Hi, Sleuth. Hi, everyone. I'm good. Really, what I wanted to call in about was just some of the stuff about the evidence that was seen being removed from the home. And
yeah, the box, the Macy's bag, the books, and all that, the digging and all that.
Right. And, the digging doesn't surprise me, but in terms of like evidence protocol, I was in forensics for over a decade. And the fact that they would carry evidence out of a major crime scene related to Delphi without putting it in evidence bags, that anyone looking from the outside, like to shield it from anyone looking, that baffles me. If it's this important to the Delphi case, if you find evidence that like that, you put it in, brown paper bag evidence bags. You don't just carry it out of a crime scene. That's just insane to me.
Well, this story comes from a neighbor. So are you saying that maybe the neighbor could be lying?
I don't think the neighbor was lying, but I'm just baffled by if that's true, then that just shows to me the kind of standard operating procedures that local law enforcement could have been operating under. It's troubling to me, honestly.
And I don't know. I really don't know what they were doing there that day. Hopefully they weren't just um just dragging stuff out of there. Hopefully they were following
Right.
protocol. I mean,
Nobody
Bob,
should be able to see what's being brought out of a crime scene, no matter how big the crime scene is. But specifically for Delphi, no one should be able to see what evidence they're bringing out. That is not normal for evidence protocol.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I just
Yeah.
don't know enough to comment, honestly.
Yeah. If anybody else has experience in forensics, I'd love to hear their point of view. But for me, no matter how casual a crime scene is, you don't just walk off with evidence in your hands to a crime scene vehicle. You bring evidence bags to the crime scene and you immediately put it there.
Yeah, you're not going to carry books. You're not just going to carry books out. You're going to put them in the bag and then carry the bag out.
Even if it's a gigantic chunk of evidence, you put it in something for not just preservation of evidence, but for shield it from the public and for transport and for chain of custody.
Well, while I have you guys both here on the line, let me ask you, William, first. There's rumors that this guy came forward as a potential witness and kind of inserted himself and maybe misdirected law enforcement. If he did come forward and put himself on the trail, are you expecting 100% they should have taken his DNA, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard apparently he said that, yeah, I was there at the trails that day, and yeah, they should have had what they needed back then, and why that wasn't done, I just don't understand that. But yeah, they should have had that for sure.
It says to me that either they did take his DNA and there was no suspect DNA at the crime scene, or they fumbled it, didn't think it was that important, and didn't test it right away. Because a lot of the time when they take like a DNA sweep of the area, they take a bunch at once, they don't process all of it right away, and there's a backlog. And that could have been the case.
Let me read this comment here by the Unsolved. It says, Tobe Lesenby said in the Carroll County comment interview that the girls were found where they were killed. Exact words. They weren't moved very far. The scene was staged. Yeah, but we can't take that at face value anymore. This case has been evolving and changing. This comment, he may not agree with this comment himself now, Mr. Lesenby, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of been a man of few words, if you think about it. He doesn't really say much, and when he does, he doesn't really let that much out. From what I've seen from him,
Well, he hasn't been much of a speaker. I mean, from the beginning, he said they asked him, the first question they asked him was, do you think that Delphi should be worried? And he's like, no.
Yeah, I did see that. He was like, oh, no, not at all.
That's absolutely ridiculous for anyone to say who's on the case.
I know.
Yeah, and this guy, and there's a killer. You're going to get your prescription filled. You're going to get your 1 hour photo, and you're like talking to a straight double murderer who knows. And he could have done more. There were some photos I heard that, and I don't know if this is true because I haven't seen it myself, but apparently he was at a bar and he was playing pool, and in the background was Anna Williams. I mean, how fucked up and twisted is that?
That is the best case of Duper's delight. He must have been so pleased with himself.
But what about law enforcement? I mean, can you stand up for them knowing that this killer, they're like, we think you're hiding in plain sight, and here's this guy playing pool next to Anna. I mean, are you guys even looking?
That's crazy.
It's crazy to me, too, that Lesenby has said that he vaguely remembered or recognized that voice. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Do you think they could have known for a while? They just may have screwed up some of the evidence or the process or something.
I think they were a little bit arrogant about if he was in the area. They must have felt that they would have noticed him. If
Oh,
that
he
makes
couldn't
sense.
get away. I get what you're saying. If it was somebody locally, there's no way he's getting away. We're gonna catch him. But he
Right.
was right there.
He
He
was
was
right
right there, under their nose.
Well, I just go back to the 2019 press conference where Doug Carter's like directly to the killer who may be in this room.
Wow, he was right, huh? He
I
really
just,
could have been in that room.
yeah,
I think that comes from the FBI. What do you think?
Absolutely.
yeah.
That,
Behavioral analysts and all that
yeah,
kind
it
of stuff.
sounds like it comes from a profile.
Yeah, like a profiler, and they were spot on. It seems
Man, so
It's-
spot on.
so crazy.
I just, I knew at that presser on Monday, I knew they weren't going to say much because they haven't through the whole case. You saw the prosecutor. We cannot, per the court order, discuss anything.
Yeah, I think they have a strategy. I think they're just allowing the case to get out of Carroll County. Let somebody kind of get the reins of the whole thing, and once it settles down, they can have a professional kind of run the court, because that's what they need. Right now, the jury is the most important thing, and it's the court's responsibility to make sure that they select a good jury.
Absolutely, and I feel like this new judge who has been appointed, Judge Gall, she has experience with high-profile
Mhm.
cases. She has
She does,
experience with child predators. I like
and
what
she's not going to blame YouTube.
right,
Most
right, or
importantly.
get scared and stressed out because people have seen her photo online.
Yeah, come on now. And as soon as there was claims that somebody put his photo online, there was about 100 major news outlets. As soon as he recused himself, they're like, okay, this is public information. They all posted his image on CNN, on
Ugh,
Fox. It's like, come
that made
on.
it worse. Come
Well, it's
on.
because he knows that only idiots are going to believe what he's saying, that it's social media's fault. No, they knew they were going to move this case. If he wants to blame it on that, I mean, that's totally fine. That's a good excuse, but it's not the truth.
Yeah.
Hey, Sloop, let me ask you this real quick, because you hear this a lot, and it blows my mind. I hear so many people say, "Oh, that's got to be Ron Logan on the bridge. Ron Logan's bridge guy." Ron Logan's not bridge guy to me. I'm sorry.
No, he's too old.
Yeah, exactly. It blows my mind when I hear that from so many people. Oh, he's got to be bridge guy.
It's the height for me.
Just-
I'm a short, stocky, like chicken leg, real strong upper body guy. And when I saw the bridge guy, that's what I saw. And I was like looking at my own body type. And sure enough, this guy's 6'6/6'7", bigger upper body, chicken legs. I mean, that's him.
That was one of the things that always got me with the clients too. Both of them, it was said that they were taller than the estimated height of Bridge Guy.
No. And even the witness said 5'6", 5'7". She said he was my height. She was 5'6".
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen a case where everybody just completely ignores the evidence. We had an unverified source say that the person did not have blue eyes, and then you had Kim Riley repeat it. But this guy that we're looking at right now, Richard Allen, has bluish gray eyes.
There's one photo of him too where it looks like he has one brown eye and one blue eye.
And the sunlight can play so many games on people's color of eye. They're it's just the way it works.
Absolutely.
Right.
Also, when you're really stressed out or anxious or excited, your eyes dilate and it makes your eyes look dark and black. And it takes away your ability to see the color of their eyes because they're so dark.
I think we have another caller. Is this the Unsolved?
Yes, this is. Can you hear me?
You're a little low. Are you able to turn it up just a little bit, your mic?
Yeah, let me mess with
I can hear you, but it's not the best. And William, I think you may need to turn your background sound down a little bit.
Hey, Sleuth. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's much better. I just could hear some of your background noise.
Hey, I'm gonna get off. I just want to say, man, I love the channel, and I'll try to catch one of your lives maybe this week. And
All
then
right,
I'll
well,
catch you later, man.
all right, I really appreciate it. Thanks for all your calls and your participation with the channel. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon, man.
Take care. Peace out.
You too, and bye.
Did you say I need to turn my mic volume up?
Actually, you're sounding okay now.
Okay.
It might have been the background noise with William.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure I wasn't causing any background noise either. Cool.
No, Haley, you still there?
I am, yes.
Hey, Unsolved, what's going on? What's on your mind, man?
Just thinking about the case, and I find it really interesting that all this activity started after they had that late night press release from the Indiana State Police. And then eventually you have all the Keegan Klein information or Kagan Klein information coming out, the affidavit. You have the river search. It seems like that moment precipitated a lot of things. And I'm curious if investigators may have had somebody come forward who tried to meet with the Anthony Shots account, or maybe even Richard Allen was using that account and tried to meet somebody, and they had eyewitnesses that led them to him eventually. I'm really curious to know what it was that led them to his house.
Well, think about it. If he had access for some reason, one way or the other, I don't know. I don't know how these petal rings work. I don't know if you can purchase catfish profiles. I don't know if people are just throwing out information, but if they're looking for somebody else who had access to the Anthony Shots profile, and they're not sure if it's Tony, they're not sure if it's roommate number 1 or friend number 2, but whoever had access to the Anthony Shots profile also had access to the friend that introduced Libby to the Anthony Shots profile. And if this is some type of paranoia, think about it. A Richard Allen is somebody who has never faced criminal charges before. He has a lot to lose. He has a 20-something year marriage. He's not your usual suspect. So for him to be extremely paranoid, he may be wanting to cover his tracks possibly, and he may be paranoid and maybe motivated to become the ski mask guy even.
I'm worried because Richard Allen, what we know about him so far, this does not seem like the type of person who's going to accept any responsibility for this at all. He seems narcissistic. He seems like somebody who thinks he's smarter than police. He's online, as we know, with a picture of the wanted poster and whatnot in the background.
Well, let me ask you this. Is it possible that he is smarter than law enforcement or smarter than they thought he was? Because you can be completely like a degenerate. You can be completely inbred, backwoods, whatever you want to call it. But you could still have that street sense about you to where you know the in and outs of law enforcement, and you're smart enough and your IQ is smart enough to outwit them on that level. You may not be very well spoken, but over here, you might be smarter than the rest. You think something like that's possible?
It is. Look at Ted Bundy, how long people like him or people like Gary Ridgway just fooled people for, years
Yes.
and years and years. And, we find out that Bundy was doing things in different parts of the country, up in Washington State, I think maybe California, Florida. And, if you don't have the manpower or the databases or things like that to track and compare cases, it can be real hard to solve some of these cases. I'm concerned that Richard Allen has done this before.
Me too. 100%.
I really am, and I wouldn't be surprised.
I think they are too. That might be why we're dealing with the delay now. Who knows what they found with the signatures? Who knows what they found with the documentation? Maybe he has photos of other crime scenes with other perpetrators within those photos. I mean, we have absolutely no clue. And the worst case scenario is that we continue to speculate. If they don't want us to speculate, they need to give us the facts. But that is the worst case scenario, is speculation.
And as somebody, like I said, in my profession, I completely agree with you 100% there. As much as law enforcement wants to protect their case, protect their sources, the one thing you don't want is the public running around speculating.
Yep.
Is there still another killer on the loose? Is there somebody on the streets who knows more about this running around in our town? And one of the things I advocated from the very beginning when I started making videos, I said, okay, I looked at the demographics of Delphi, how many people are male, how many people are female, and how many people are between a certain age. And I told myself, how much manpower would it take to try and obtain, and granted, people don't have to give you a DNA sample, but how much manpower would it take to track down those, like 800 or 700 or 900 male that would fit that criteria that live in Delphi? Yeah, and who refused? And that may have been part of their investigation too. They may have been trying to get DNA samples from some people who didn't want to give them, and then they just stay higher up on their radar or their list of potential suspects.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I can't wrap my head around still in this entire case, and I don't want to go back and talk about this too much about the source I had, and we all know about that. But the fact that, after all this happened, DNR came to me and he said, look, he said, I told investigators the truth about what happened in jail, about what Klein told me. And granted, Klein is a pathological liar, but I still cannot wrap my head around why he would continue to put himself at the crime scene or the area if he wasn't actually there. He wouldn't have anything to gain from that. And his personality seems like he's always looking to see what he can benefit from, what he can gain from. And law enforcement isn't going to cut him any breaks if he just comes out and lies and makes things up that can't be proven. So
no, the timing of that is also very, very suspicious, because he became extremely confident right around the same time they were doing the search, right around the time they began looking into Richard Allen. This is all, the timing of it all is very strange. The confidence of Keegan Klein doing all this weird chirping and even talking to people that he's locked up with. What gave him that confidence?
Well,
and why does that confidence coincide with all this, the new updates with the case?
Maybe he feels, wow, investigators finally have figured out that it wasn't me who committed this crime, even if I may know more about it. And maybe that's a sense of relief to him. Maybe he knows that he has some information and, he's going to get some charges dropped or things like that. And I can't wait to see how this plays out. It's fascinating.
And we all think that they ran to Vegas because, maybe they were selling a snuff film or all that. But that's the Hollywood in our mind, that plays out those holes and fills in the hole, so to speak. But the truth is, they could have been afraid of him as well.
That's the thing, and we don't know. And until we see that affidavit unsealed, we won't know. And boy, I just still worry. Most of the time we try to, like you said, this isn't Hollywood. A lot of times our minds tend to wander and we want to think there's some huge conspiracy or there's a million people involved. And usually 9 times out of 10, that's not the case.
Simple. It's much more simple.
Yeah. And I think it is in this case too. I think they had the suspect's DNA. I think for whatever reason, they just couldn't link it back to Allen. They probably did some reverse DNA searches, familial stuff, and they probably narrowed it down to X amount of suspects. But I don't know. I just don't know. None of us do.
Haley, what do you think
about the DNA?
about it all? Everything. What are you thinking about everything?
I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. I sort of agree with the probable cause affidavit remaining sealed. I'm willing to wait as long as we need to find out information, as long as it secures a conviction. I'm like I said, I'm worried about how the evidence was collected. If a neighbor was able to see exactly what was carried out of the house. I hope that whatever excavations they did of his property were done methodologically and per protocol. If how they collected evidence was any indication of how they conducted the excavations, I just hope it was done properly.
Yeah, there's no reason why we should be able to read the logo of a Macy's on the outside of a Macy's bag, right? If it's evidence.
Absolutely. Even if something is collected in a Macy's bag, it should be put into a gigantic brown paper evidence bag.
Because when they put it in the back of a truck, they could get scuff marks of grease on there. They could get,
They
it could be
really could. And
contaminated.
there's horror stories of evidence collection, such as the Dylan Rounds case, where they put his boots in the back of a cop car and they were left there for a week without being properly logged. No protocol was taken in how they were, documented into evidence. I just hope that that's not what happened in this case, because no bystander should be able to see exactly what evidence was collected. That's what worries me.
You know what else worries me is the fact that Richard Allen, they searched his house and his property, and the guy he wasn't arrested for like another 13 days.
I know.
That blows my mind too. It's like if you were the bridge guy and you knew investigators had just come to your house, would anybody in their right mind just sit there?
But
Brian Laundrie, for example.
That is exactly, that's arrogance. It sounds like they got a tip, they went to his house, he refused a willing search of his property. That's why he was waiting outside for however many hours, half a day. They got a search warrant. That's when Liggett showed up with a piece of paper that the neighbor saw. They got a specific warrant to search. They did it.
They detained him.
They detained him. But the reason he wasn't immediately taken into custody was because that was the amount of time that it took to process the evidence to get.
And he was just being detained. He wasn't being arrested at the time.
Exactly. He was just being detained. And the reason it took so long to arrest him was because that was probably the amount of time it took to fast track that DNA evidence processing, whatever it was, whether it was digital, physical, genetic, whatever it was. And the fact that they arrested him so quickly, to me, says that they had definitive proof right then that it must have been him. He was involved, whether he killed the girls directly or was there on that day. They must have had something that pinned him to the crime that when they got the evidence back.
Well, go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, I have this hunch, and I don't know why. It's just gut instinct, and it seems like my gut instinct is right way more than it's wrong. I agree with her that I hope they collected this evidence properly, because I have a feeling that they found a souvenir or something that he kept from that crime scene.
I agree.
I really do.
That shed.
Yeah, that shed to me, like there is a common theme among serial killers is an area of their property, whether it's in the home or in a shed.
A man shed.
A man shed, an area that no one else is ever able to enter. BTK had one.
Away from the family or the wife.
Yeah, it's locked. No one's able to enter, and it's their safe space, their man cave to hide all of their despicable, disgusting shit. Whether it's photos, digital evidence, trophies, that's what was in there.
Yeah, because in my opinion, he could not part. If he did take trophies, there's just no way he could part with them.
Absolutely not.
It's not. He would die before that. He would rather die before parting with those.
What if the wife? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say he's super arrogant. So even if he was connected to the Kleins, he would have assumed that he was better and smarter enough that he could still keep them and get away with it.
What if the wife stumbled across all this on accident or something and turned him in, and it's going to turn state's evidence? Like, can you imagine?
Good on her.
I have a really bad feeling about the wife. They've been married for a really long time. I just don't have any. I don't have a good gut feeling about what we're going to learn about that situation. Yeah,
I kind of think that that family was a little bit dysfunctional. I see the guy had cigarettes on a picture on the table. Obviously, he's talked about drinking, which kind of goes with what I said early on. I've always said he's a smoker and a drinker, or both. Just his raspiness in his voice in the Down the Hill audio. And I also looked up, and I don't want to go into private family members' information, but I'm pretty sure when I was researching his daughter's information, she has kind of a little bit of a history with some things going on. And I don't think that it was the most functional family atmosphere.
Interesting.
By any means.
What was it that you saw? I haven't seen that at all.
You know, I'll have to look because she has a different last name now. And I didn't go too deep into it, and I don't want to put false information out there. But what
I
I
think she's
saw,
married. I think she married.
yeah, you know what? It's probably better that I don't speculate. I'll let you guys
Yeah.
kind of search for that on
Nah.
your own in case I'm wrong. But I think there's some
I know what
things
you're
there
talking
in her
about.
past that aren't so savory, that implicate, you know, she may have had some problems.
Well, I'm just saying, we're talking about a 25-year marriage. I mean, I don't have any
She
secrets
had
from
to
my
have
wife.
seen a lot. She had to have
My-
seen some indication of his dysfunctional.
My office is about as secret as it gets, and my wife is in and out of here constantly.
Right, because you're a normal human person.
You don't know that.
I don't know that, but
Yeah.
the fact that you let your wife into your office is an indication.
Well, she doesn't. The thing is that she doesn't ask. Like, she just comes in.
She trusts you.
Yeah. Why would I keep her out of my office?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Let me throw a scenario out to you and see what you guys think. And this is just something that crossed my mind the other day. Okay, we've heard rumors, and do we know if they're confirmed that this guy tried to check himself into a mental hospital or something like that?
No,
Is
I'm
that been
dying
confirmed?
to dying to find verification of that,
Okay.
because from day one I've heard this.
The
Those
reason
records are usually sealed.
the reason I ask is this: what if this guy was going through some mental issues at the time? You know, maybe he's unhappy with his life. Maybe he wants to kill himself. What if he went out to the bridge that day? He went for a long walk and he's thinking, I'm just going to jump off this bridge. I'm going to end it all. And instead of doing that, he just played out some sick fantasy in his mind. And that's why he did it in broad daylight, just because he didn't give a shit about anything at that point.
Homicidal people who have those underlying sadistic fantasies, a la the Columbine, one of the shooters was incredibly depressed and wanted to take other people down with him.
I mean, it seems like it's sort of a common thing, like you just said there, Colin. That's one example, definitely. What if this guy just says, I'm going to end it all, and he just gets out there and he just snaps in a different way and takes that all out on somebody else, or he fulfills some twisted fantasy? It's just something I've been thinking about, you know, especially that it happened in broad daylight. Then all of a sudden he has a realization after he does this. Oh my God, what did I just do? I have to cover my tracks now, and just bails. I mean, what if it's that simple? I mean, who knows?
I don't think it is that simple. I think that these guys, I think there's something going on between Kagan and this Richard Allen guy.
I do too.
And I also think that it stems from early on in February, and they're paranoid about something. They set this up, and the ski mask incident is completely involved. I think it all intertwines somehow.
Who do you think the ski mask person was?
I think it was Richard Allen.
I would love to see that.
He's paranoid. He's acting on paranoia. He has no criminal charges. He has this family. He has his job. He's two separate people. He doesn't need both of those lives intermingling or intertwining. And I think that Tony and Kagan understood how dangerous this guy was, and they were like, we need to get the fuck out of here. I don't think they came back until they realized that, hey, law enforcement doesn't know who this person is. And the reason that Kagan and whoever else was using his devices, they were looking at the evidence. They were checking about DNA, because really they were trying to see what law enforcement had. And if they really didn't have anything on Richard Allen, then these guys really didn't have anything to fear, and they could come back.
I find it telling that when they were interviewing Kagan from that transcript, that one of the things he said is that I don't want to use the exact words, but you know what I'm talking about because you've read it. The notion that he's like, I knew I was fucked or something like that.
It's because it's kind of like he knew he was part of this crime, but most importantly, he knew that he was a criminal who had now been tied to a crime. So all those other crimes are going to now come to light. And he knew that he was fucked, whether he's a witness or he's just an accessory. He knows that he's fucked either way. And my thing is the motivation. I don't want to go into Hollywood mode when I start thinking about Vegas. You know, is this Are they taking video? Are they trying to sell snuff films and all
God,
of
I
that?
hope. God, I hope not.
No, honestly, think about it. They left the day after the ski mask incident, so they could have left. They could have been scared too. We don't know. These motherfuckers could
No,
have been scared shitless. Like, we don't know who this Richard Allen guy is. He doesn't. He's not your Facebook guy. He's not your typical guy. But if you go into a bar or a back room or maybe an after party and it's just a bunch of creepy guys in a room, and Richard Allen's there, he might be a scary motherfucker that we don't know anything about.
Well, we
But they
also know
do.
Keegan likes to profit off of things. He wants to look like he's baller, like he has money. What's to say he doesn't set this account up and sell access to that account, or say, hey, Richard, some guy here, or him or his dad meet at a bar, and one of them says, hey, you give me $500, I'll give you access to where this young girl is. If you want to meet
Well,
her.
who's to say? Look, from what we know, the relationship between Libby and Kagan was only from February to the time she was dead, beginning of February, like the 3rd up until the 13th. Who's to say somebody didn't hire Kagan to put her on the south end of the bridge? Somebody could have easily used him to put her there.
That's what I mean, and it worries me because when law enforcement held this press conference, the most recent one, their complete mentality and attitude, it suggests strongly to me that even they are concerned that there's more to this that still they don't even know. And they have to have some tangible physical evidence that ties Allen to these murders and the crime scene. And I'm sure we'll find out what that is. But I also simultaneously think law enforcement probably thinks there might be more people involved in this somehow. And they can't necessarily explain how fully yet.
there's also a chance that the reason they don't want to, expose all of those documents or the case in general is because this is another tie to yet another CSAM ring.
Yeah, and you obviously want to catch as many of those people as you possibly can. I just hope and pray that Doug Carter and everybody else isn't allowing somebody else who had hands-on involvement in this crime to still be roaming around out there. And they need to do everything in their power to end speculation about that if they can, because there's going to be a lot of speculation no matter what this affidavit says, and there already is.
And speculation only exists when there's lack of facts.
Yeah.
Yep. I would love for them to come out and say the Kleins were not involved.
And I don't think we're ever going to hear any of that, just because I don't think I don't think they fully know the entire picture yet. And that kind of makes me nervous.
My fear is that they're not involved, and then we've been led to believe that this case was going down on one road, when the truth is that they had no clue, and it's going to make that entire community really fearful knowing that.
And it's possible because any investigation has like a tree branch, the different branches that branch out that they're going to be looking into. And only one of those branches is usually going to be the correct one, not all of them. And so there's simultaneous investigations going on all the time, it sounds like. We know because they were looking at Logan, they were looking at Klein, and now Richard Allen. So they've had their tentacles all over the place in this investigation. And, when Carter says, that we're still piecing all of this together, I believe him. He's been very straightforward with us, and everything he said has.
Doug Carter said, they asked him, well, do you think that the probable cause should be released? He said, yes, I do personally. He's like, but I also want to support the prosecutor. Now, one thing that troubled me is that Robert Ives early on in the investigation said it's up to Indiana State Police to release info. You remember that?
Yeah, that was a recent interview. I saw that.
Okay, so if Robert Ives is saying it's up to the ISP to release information, why now is it the ISP saying it's up to the prosecutor to release the information?
Well, that suggests to me that you've got a different prosecutor now that has a different relationship with the ISP than Ives did. Ives, so one prosecutor might be closer with the police than the others. It depends on your style of.
Well, Ives is the guy that said he thought the guy was local and that it would be wrapped up rather quickly.
Mm-hmm.
He's half right.
So maybe that's just kind of wanting to take the burden. I may say that because he wants to take the burden and pressure off of himself and be like, hey, this is your investigation. I don't want to make it look like I'm overstepping my bounds in your investigation.
I think there's a Band-Aid here. I think there's a Band-Aid here, and it hasn't been taken off yet. And I don't know who's responsible for it, but I have a feeling that it's the sheriff's office and somebody who was part of the early investigation. They may have tainted some of the evidence that implicated Allen.
Well, you remember that Doug Carter, I think it was him, came out and said when he released the statement, he basically acknowledged that there had been mistakes made in the investigation, and his words were, going forward, we're going to do everything we can, as we always do, to make sure that we're kind of tip top on top of the ball. But what he said, it strongly suggested that something went wrong at some point. I think you know what I'm talking about. It's where he just kind of came out in the past year or so and said we're always critically evaluating our efforts, I think is how he put it.
Microwave, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, good to see you, man. Haven't called in a while. How you doing?
Really good.
What's your 2 cents, man? Let's hear it.
Just like your theory about how you said maybe Keegan was selling the Anthony Shots info. Maybe that's how Richard Allen ties to him. Maybe Keegan was selling him, the account info and all that. And maybe Richard Allen just went crazy, started doing like the ski mask thing, and then all of a sudden, the murders.
Maybe to me, for some reason, my gut is telling me that there's drugs involved. Now, this guy works at a pharmacy.
That's what I always thought too.
So, regardless of the pharmacy playing part in the drugs or not, Kagan, he talked about PCP and other drugs. There's more involved. So, if this guy's going through it, I mean, who knows what he's capable of, right?
Right. But then, again, he had the job at the CVS with working with the pharmaceutical techs and all that. Could he have been on drugs?
They said he had his tech in that. They said he had his tech license on the 2018, but I wonder he worked out of Walgreens. So did he have a tech license over there?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. From what I understand, you get your tech license and the originating year is the official year. I don't know. I always thought you had to redo it. But the fact is, when I was younger, I knew people who worked at tech, who were pharmacy techs, and they sold the drugs, to people in the community. So I know for a fact that it's possible.
Right.
I've got a question that I'd be interested to hear your opinion on, Sleuth.
Sure.
A couple of months ago, I made a video called "Did Keegan Kline Fall into Law Enforcement's Trap?" And at the time, I thought, okay, maybe Keegan Kline or his dad is Bridget. The investigation didn't involve Allen, to our knowledge, at that point. And when I asked that question, I was asking myself, why didn't we hear about this Anthony Shots account until recently? Do you think it's at all possible, as arrogant as Allen appears, that he was stupid enough from any sort of a device to log back into that Anthony Shots account and leave a digital footprint in the past year that all of a sudden reheated this investigation up and got him?
Yeah, I think it is possible. But I don't think that that's what happened. What I think happened is that they were looking for another device, something that had some type of imprint. I think Kagan said, hey, from my understanding, because listen, just because you're not on Facebook and just because us as sleuths can't find your footprint doesn't mean that footprint doesn't exist. You know what I mean? We don't let the ego get in your way. Like, this guy could have a complete social media footprint and we just don't see it. So he could be communicating with Keegan Kline through Dropbox. He could be doing all types of things and smart enough to cover his end through burner phones. So if he's smart enough and he doesn't have a criminal record. So if profilers are saying this isn't his first time, he's smarter than we think, guys. Come on, he's been married,
Right.
he has a family. We could be
You know-
dealing with a BTK type guy. Oh, just let me finish this thought here. So if he's this psycho killer, right, and he's smarter than we think, is it possible that he's communicating with Keegan Klein and he's involved in this CSAM stuff? I mean, is that far fetched? Because if it's not, then the thing is that we can't be on law enforcement side anymore because they're responsible for us even thinking that to begin with. You know what I mean?
I wonder if one of the things they found out about him was a trove of CSAM material. And that was part of what initially led them to him somehow.
It could
You know,
be.
I don't want to get sidetracked here, but I can't wait until we get all the answers, because there's little things in this case that have messed with me every single day since the beginning. And that video I just mentioned, I'm not trying to plug my own videos here,
No,
but
plug them, man. Everybody respects you here, so don't worry about
on
all
my
that.
video, did Bridge Guy fall into law enforcement's trap? If you go to the sort by and you go to newest first comments, the second comment down, there's an avatar of Bridge Guy, and the person uses the name on my comments, Bridge Guy. Now, there's sick people out there. I don't think it's obviously Bridge Guy, but what's to say that Alan isn't on some of our pages like that, lurking in the background? How do I know the person who left that comment wasn't Alan? Just like throwing it up in law enforcement.
No, man, I have there was this guy
It's
who
crazy.
was commenting to me while I was doing my live streams,
Mhm.
and apparently he was discovered or whatever, but his name was Beleth Gremery.
Mhm.
And another name that was his name on Facebook, and he had some other name, the Gingerbread Man, on YouTube. And he would message me while I was live streaming, and he would Facebook message me, and I would look him up, and he would be like, what do you think the girl said to me when I told him to cross the creek? Or no, what do you think the girl said when I told him to once they cross the creek to take off their clothes? What do you think their response was? He would say stuff like that to me, and I documented it. I have it all on files.
And
Right.
it's responsible
Wow.
to do that, because there are people out there who do things like that are actual
Yep.
killers. And
Yeah.
even if it's only a 1 in 100 chance. And
Do you guys remember Bobby Camworth?
Yeah,
No.
it's sickening stuff. You don't even want to go to his page on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm not. This is not a plug.
Oh, I know.
But,
It's not.
we're not going to show it by any means, but it was funny because actually earlier this morning I was thinking about Bobby Camworth, and it was like Richard Allen could easily have been a Bobby Camworth,
Yeah,
right there in Delphi, right there in
don't know.
Delphi.
Just don't know. And until you let law enforcement vet that information, we might be shocked when we find out how they caught this guy. It might have been this guy's own arrogance, just like in the BTK case, where he's like leaving cereal boxes with tied up dolls on the side of the road. And
No, he was calling in 911 with his own voice.
Yeah, and it just some people are that arrogant, and frankly, that's what scares me about this guy. Is he kind of strikes me as that same type of personality.
Well, even like Doug Carter said, like, you want to know what we know, and one day you will. Like, it could have been his own curiosity
or arrogance, or narcissism. Yeah,
that's so true.
Yeah. Poking his nose in some place where he shouldn't have been.
Many serial killers are caught that way. BTK was caught that way.
Yeah, I can't believe
911 calls.
I can't believe the way they caught BTK was, he
wanted to be caught, in my opinion.
He's like, can you trace me on a floppy disk? And they just told him no, and he believed them. I'm like,
he's like, all right, here's the floppy disk.
After 30 years, that just blows my mind. So it shows the level of arrogance we're dealing with in the first place.
And
April
it's not really
was putting his DNA into condoms into mailboxes for years before he got caught.
Oh, that's a crazy case. Yeah, that guy was How do
Writing
you not catch
Barnes? Who does that?
Well, when Richard Allen, when he first got arrested, like, it was all over YouTube,
Yep.
And people were saying, "Oh, his wife is Kathy Allen. His wife is Kathy Allen." I went on Facebook and I looked, and you know it. She had stuff posted all about him, like videos and pictures, and like any video that she posted on Facebook with him, like stuff with them at the bar, you know, like them drinking and them hiking, like all the pictures that in videos that she took with him, he looked so uncomfortable in the you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
you
you
could
could
Look,
tell
just
that he didn't want to be on camera.
yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not very photogenic either, but
but I
I mean,
smile.
he
I'm
just looked
happy.
like
Like
really
you can see that I'm happy if I'm hiking on a mountain.
exactly
Like you're gonna see that I'm happy that I made it to the top. You're not gonna see just some dark look in my face. You know what I
You
mean?
know,
right.
everybody.
He looked so like uncomfortable, like you know what I mean?
You can
He
also
in
tell
life, I think in his own skin, he's uncomfortable.
the
Right.
fact
You remember
he
when
had.
you remember? Sorry to cut you off there, Haley.
Go ahead.
Just real quick. You know when he was flopping around
Oh, yeah.
on that when he was playing pool? To me, what I see is somebody who needed to release
Yep.
something.
That was some Jeffrey Dahmer shit.
Yeah, he's releasing some type of energy. And if
I'm
Yeah.
he
Right.
doesn't release it like that, it's gonna release some other way.
I'm grateful that we have an FBI profiling unit and that became a thing, because the psychological aspects of these crimes, I mean, we all sit here and we speculate, and you know, you've talked about it too, Sleuth. We can't really put ourselves in the shoes of some of these people because we don't think the way that they do. And the fact that they've taken decades now to study the behavior of these types of people and understand why they are. And as we all know, that's where the entire profile and them being confident it was somebody from Delphi and that knew the area, that was all scripted for Doug Carter. And
Mm-hmm.
they've honestly, from what I can tell so far, done a tremendous job of really nailing it on the head of the type of person who they thought it was going to be. They were right about the fact that the person was from Delphi, just checking all the boxes. And we got to give the FBI a lot of credit because they're the ones who came up with this profile.
Greg Massa was the one that made the profile. Um, he was the entire reason why I was looking into Julian Powell. And I've even had private conversations with Julian Powell where he's like, yeah, man, like I understand what you're doing. He's like, I would have done the same thing. And if you look at this guy, he fits that same criteria. He may have had some mental issues around the same time. He may have called in sick that day, I believe. I'm not sure yet, but I think Greg Massa had the profile like down to like to a T.
What do you guys think about, did you guys see Gray Hughes' recent video about his daughter wearing a tie-dye Libby and Abby memorial shirt?
Yeah, we've been showing that from the beginning. It's right here.
Oh.
It's on the screen right now.
And you guys also know, if you watch the profile that John Kelly Profiler did, one of the things that they kept saying on his page also is this guy was going to be a very visual person.
Yep.
Now, what did he do for a living? He's processing photos at the pharmacy.
Man.
Nailed it. Just knocked it out of the park with that profile.
Well, let me
Definitely.
ask you this real quick. Think about it. Also, if you're a pedophile or if you're somebody who is taking film of pedophilia,
Oh God, I
who
don't even want to think about what else he took.
who better to take it to than this gentleman to get developed?
Right?
Yep.
I don't think that way, but you know, you're thinking outside the box, and you have to. That's how people.
No,
learn
you got to
about
think
things
like
this.
these people.
Yeah, and that's the only way that
That's
these crimes get solved. Sometimes.
yeah. I'm glad you don't have that problem. I do.
It's just boy, I used to want to be, if I hadn't been a journalist for a living, that my second career choice was FBI agent, and I actually had somebody who was a former law enforcement officer teach and train me how to use firearms when I was in my teenage years, even though I live in a very liberal state in Illinois. And one day it came down to it, and I said, well, what am I want to do for a living? And I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that, well, someday, as much as I want to help the world and fight crime and things like that, what if I come home one day and my kid doesn't have a dad just because one of these sickos got me? And I didn't want to take that risk. I know it sounds kind of cowardly, and so I chose journalism instead. And every day I kind of wonder to myself, boy, how much could I have actually helped if I had been an FBI agent or something of that nature? And so I kind of live that second life vicariously through this channel a little bit sometimes, I think, and sometimes a little bit too much.
Like if I'm not at work,
journalism might be a little
I'm in
more
the
dangerous.
house.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, what were you saying, Sleuth?
Oh, I was just saying sometimes journalism could be the most dangerous choice.
Yeah, you're right about that, depending on what you're covering.
You guys want to see some of that gingerbread stuff?
Yes.
All right, let me see if I have it available.
I don't know what
It's
you're
really
talking about.
it's really disgusting. It's I mean, imagine finding actually maybe another time. We'll do that another time. Because I don't have it handy and I don't want to spend like an hour trying to find it.
Okay.
So.
A lot of days if I'm not at work, I'm in the house just because it's so dangerous anymore.
I don't recommend going out.
Right.
Honestly, when I tell the wife, I said, hey, she's like, hey, I'm going to go run to Walmart real quick. Hey. And I said, take that with you.
Something really bad happened to my family when I was super young, and it's made me paranoid. Like when extreme violence touches your life, it makes you paranoid to the world.
Well,
that sucks. It steals it.
Anxiety and PTSD
sanity.
are terrible.
Yeah.
I deal with anxiety issues. I'm in my 40s now. That started in my 30s.
Yeah, me too.
And I lost my mom. I just started becoming more aware of my own mortality. You start overthinking things, and what helped me more than anything. And if anybody out there is going through the same thing, go talk to a therapist. I mean, it really, really does help.
And sometimes I'm wondering if some people have PTSD and they just don't admit it,
or they don't even know it. Yeah.
People have it and don't even know they have it.
Yeah.
One of the best ways to find out if you have it is to go to therapy. I completely agree. So when I was young, my mom was almost raped and murdered, and it was horrible. She's fine now, but she's also a psychologist. So I've had a mom as a therapist, which has been incredible to deal with that sort of trauma.
Yeah. And sometimes even when you know what the problem is, you don't know how to fix it. And that's why these people are trained to do this, to understand ways to help you cope with these things and to accept certain things. And it takes so much pressure and stress off of you when you stop trying to control everything in your life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an unbiased perspective on your life that is invaluable. Even if you're not dealing with anything difficult, it's invaluable to have an unbiased perspective on your life.
And we as a society need to start taking, I don't want to go too far down this path, but we need to just take the stigma off. It's gotten better, but take the stigma off of, having a mental therapist or a psychologist or anybody you talk to, because it's just, your brain is your entire body, your entire network, the hub of everything. And you should be taking care of that more than anything.
Absolutely.
And it's unfortunate. Now we have, everybody's lived through a pandemic for 3 years. I mean, who knows the psychological toll that's taken on people and their kids. We'll find that out down the road. And we really need to kind of come together as a society and stop being so divisive. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now.
Mental health is super important. I completely agree.
Because I'm sure this Mr. Richard Allen guy, he wasn't born this way, I don't think. I'm sure his environment turned him into this monster, and it's just unfortunate. It really is.
Totally.
Yeah, because we don't even know, like, his upbringing, like, his background. We don't even know who he is.
I hope we figure that out someday. I'd love to know his childhood, the issues he dealt with growing up, how he was treated by his father, his stepfather, and his mother, his siblings, in school. I'd love to know all that about him.
I want to know what he's been doing on social media this entire time for the last 6 years. I wonder if he's been injecting
right, because he had to have been like lurking, behind the background, just watching us.
The dark web. What is he doing online? He has no social media presence that we can find. What was he doing?
And sometimes when you're old school, you don't need like social media. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, but just about 15, 20 years ago, there was no such thing as a social media presence. You had your phone and you had human contact.
And you had
So who's
You
to
guys
say
I
this
really
guy's not
like.
operating that way?
I went
There's
on the
all-
internet a couple times, but I really didn't get on no Facebook or on the internet or anything like that till at least like almost 2011.
You know, guys, there's public social media presence, and then there's presence behind the scenes on devices. And I
Bar
wonder,
goers.
you know, you may act one way on social media or in public, but then in the privacy of your own home, you may act another way. And who knows? Maybe this guy had some child stuff hidden on his computer at home, and the wife accidentally bumps into it or something, and now all of a sudden she does suspect him, or who knows? There's a million possibilities.
Yeah.
There really are.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've been saying it for a while, but like what's going on in Indiana? Because it always seems like there's like child trafficking rings, Indiana, or kids like bodies of children being found, in like suitcases and all kind of stuff in Indiana.
Well,
I feel like that's everywhere. Honestly, I live in Florida and that stuff happens. Human trafficking, sex trafficking, that stuff happens. We're just not hearing about it as often.
Well, it's interesting that you brought that up, Microwave, because the whole Cairo Jordan case,
Yeah,
apparently the mother was there for prostitution. And apparently it's kind of like, I don't know if you know anything about single men who are like journeymen. What they do is they look for high paying jobs across the United States and they just travel. Well, apparently a lot of women are do the same thing when it comes to prostitution.
right.
So the Indy 500 was a big draw for people in that industry, and it just so happened to be that child fell a victim during that process, and nobody cared.
Well, look in this latest court case. We had a judge that recused herself or something, and there's people complaining in Indiana now that the counties that have been involved in this so far that they really don't have enough manpower to handle this, and so I don't think they have a lot of law enforcement manpower in a lot of these rural counties either. So it's probably, unfortunately, easier for some of these people to think they can get away with this sort of thing in these rural areas sometimes.
I have a bad feeling. I have a bad feeling about that Cairo Jordan thing too. I mean, the last time they found the mother was in Indiana, and they have a feeling that she went back to California, but they're not sure. So, I mean, she could be a victim just as much as that child.
Yeah,
Right.
I think victim too.
Yeah, because it says like she's supposed to be like a suspect or whatever, but they haven't found her either, to my knowledge.
No, she could be out there somewhere in them woods too.
And it's not like he had signs of like blunt force trauma or anything like that, to my knowledge.
There's so many super rural places in this country that nobody steps foot on for like decades at a time. It scares me sometimes to think about all the people who've gone missing that we probably don't even know about these days, just because of things like that and factors like that. But it's scary. It really is.
A lot of holes in them deserts.
There's a lot more sick people roaming around out there that we encounter in our everyday lives than we could possibly imagine. All you got to do to realize that is go on a child sex offender website and look at how many people are in your neighborhood.
Oh yeah,
it scare the crap out of you. It'll scare you like crazy.
Well, think about it. Richard Allen lived a mile from the bridge.
Yeah.
Develop film for the family.
I find it hard to believe that this guy, Richard Allen, has not offended prior to this in terms of.
No, how does he do that?
Right.
He's
How do you just go out and kill 2 little girls and this is like your first time?
And he's sitting in a pharmacy window and he's got a picture of the young bridge guy, and people are coming up there going, "Hey, oh yeah, it's too bad about the Delphi case, I wonder if they're ever going to catch this guy." Well, he's like, "Yeah, that's horrible. Here's your prescription."
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
One of the things that we know is that, and this has been reported by Fox News Indianapolis, that Richard Allen, they stated, came forward in this case as some type of witness, which means he tried to deceive law enforcement.
And if they didn't take his DNA, I will be pissed.
And I bet you they didn't.
Idiots if they didn't. That's infuriating if they didn't.
Julian Powell said they took his DNA.
Right.
So I find
believe that they wouldn't have taken Richard Allen's DNA, and if he placed himself at the scene, they 100% would have taken his DNA. So that's what makes me think that they didn't have suspect DNA at the time,
I don't know.
or
Maybe that's why Carter says we'll continue to critically reevaluate our efforts going forward. Maybe because they knew he came forward as a witness, but somebody screwed up and didn't take his DNA.
Yikes.
yes, or that leak is
Oh,
inaccurate.
man. That unsolved, that's been my fear all morning long, is that he came forward and he fooled them. He was good enough to fool them, and they didn't take his DNA.
Don't be surprised if that's what happens.
Yeah, that's enough to keep the probable cause sealed. I don't know if the election's going to happen before that time. I'm not sure what's going on, but I mean, that's a hell of a reason to keep that information sealed as long as possible.
Well, the election is tomorrow, so right?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
There was a lot going on about like the Delphi case, like the past like month and a half, 2 months almost. Like there was a rumor Tony Klein got arrested.
Yeah, that was bad.
There was the thing with the lawsuit or whatever. You know what I'm talking about, with the sheriff or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, it was
just
Michael
a lot
Thomas.
going on.
Michael Thomas apparently was leaking information and filing lawsuits against the sheriff's office.
Right. There was just so much going on before this arrest.
It just worries me because, if Fox is actually reporting it as fact that he came forward as a witness in the case, that means that law enforcement has had contact.
They're not reporting it as fact. They're saying that sources tell them, and the same sources are the same sources that are telling the person who originally posted it on Reddit, and it's not verified. So it's very reckless by Fox to do that. But it's almost like they're now old media is now competing with new media to get that information out, and they're not verifying the information.
I don't know. I like to give, whether it's, Fox, CNN, I won't make this political at all. I like to give the TV journalists a little more credit, because I think that most of the time, especially in situations like this, they probably are independently verifying their sources.
No, did you hear the verbiage? They're basically, the verbiage is stating that they're not verifying the information and at all.
I'll have to go back and read the article.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, not the article. Look at the actual Fox 59 coverage. They basically are telling you that the information that they're getting is basically directly from, without saying the Reddit page. They're talking about the Reddit page.
I didn't see that in my article. It just said Fox 59 sources, or Fox 13 or whatever it was, sources. It said that Allen, and the exact words was that Allen had come forward in the beginning of an investigation.
Yep, that's the same report that stated that a neighbor originally placed a report of stolen items that led to that, eventually led to all of this. It's the same source.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to hear if that was actually true, and I seriously doubt it.
Well, it's either true or it's a complete lie, because in that same witness testimony is the statement that they spoke with Richard Allen. He came forward and said, "Yeah, I was on the trails." Okay, if he came forward and said he was on the trails, you better damn well have his DNA, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
That would be completely ridiculous if they didn't take it.
Well, maybe he didn't give it.
If he didn't give it, he would have had to have gotten a lawyer, and I feel like he would have become a suspect at that point if he had lawyered up and refused to give it.
Well, I don't know. He could still not hire a lawyer and just refuse to give it, and they still can't take it from him unless they have a probable cause affidavit for that.
Along with an alibi, maybe.
And yes, absolutely. The alibi, I feel like he had to have had a valid alibi at the time. Do
you guys remember the Daniel Pearson story?
No.
Well, there was all this talk about this guy, Daniel Pearson. He was at the bridge. He was there that day. He came forward as a witness and later on changed his story, right? Once the bridge guy image came out. Basically, if you replace Daniel Pearson with Richard Allen, it's the exact same story.
Maybe he gave an incorrect name or an alias because he has in the past.
Yeah, why would they say like you never thought we would change our investigative strategy, but we did. It's almost like he tried to fool them or something, right?
Yeah, I agree.
They're
That
idiots. If
I'm just
that,
making sure I'm not like I'm not going crazy here. I'm like something's going on, right?
let's also remember that law enforcement officers are human too. They make
Yeah.
mistakes. We all
Mhm.
make mistakes, and
We're all equal, honestly. You
maybe
know,
the
we're all trying to do the right thing.
maybe most of the people, they're busy investigating other avenues, and they only have a certain number of law enforcement officers to track down leads, and so even if they have a lot of manpower, maybe just the person who was investigating that specific tip didn't put as much credibility into it as they thought, or their direction the investigation was going was a little
Or
bit
maybe
different.
knew them in some kind of capacity and said, "Oh yeah, they're good. Don't worry about them."
Yeah, who knows? I mean, there's a million
small
possibilities.
town. Yeah.
Gosh, I hope that's because I mean, Doug Carter said, "Yeah, I wish they would release it, but they're not going to."
I
And then
mean,
you had Robert Ives say, "Hey, it's up to ISP to release the information."
I
You
mean,
got Doug Carter, who's part of ISP, saying it's up to the prosecutor to release the. Which is it? I mean,
crazy,
come on now.
crazy things happen, and in the other cold case that I helped bring a resolution to in 2011, I know I've mentioned it when I worked for Patch.com as an editor. The Mike Gargiulo case in Illinois. An affluent suburb, one of the most affluent suburbs in the country, in Glenview. They had his DNA under the girl's fingernails. And the reason the prosecutors gave for not bringing charges against him for 18 years was, well, that could be explained away through the fact that, he could just say that he's been having sexual intercourse with her or something. And that's an alibi. And
Hmm.
it just disgusts me that they could find somebody's DNA. So my point here is this was a very, very affluent suburb. And people, I think, in the police department at the time were kind of friends with the kid's family. I actually knew who he was growing up. I knew about his family. He was like a little league teammate of mine, even, which is crazy to think that I was a serial killer was a little league teammate of mine. But you know, sometimes people will let their own biases get in the way of a proper investigation. And even in this case that I'm speaking about here, in my own experience, they have the person's DNA under her fingernails for all this time and still don't bring
Mm-hmm.
charges. So everything isn't always as cut and dry in the movies. It's like, oh, we
Well,
found DNA,
I
we can
I
get people.
talk about a case. I covered this case for a while, and they actually put it on cold case files. But the person they had a suspect, right? And they had somebody look into it, and he looked into it, and he said, "Oh no, these guys were locked away. They were in jail at the time. There's just no possible way that they committed the crime." Okay. And then 13 years later, a cold case team looks at it and they says, okay, this guy verified it and says, "Hey, yeah, they were locked up." Well, they got to start from the beginning. They got to verify every piece of information. They go to verify that information and find out it was 100% false. And that ended up being their killer the entire time. The original person that they suspected, who somebody cleared,
Yeah.
who didn't do their due diligence.
And it's like my dad, who was in the military, used to say, "You're only as strong, as the link next to you. If that
Your weakest link.
yeah,
Your
if that,
weakest link.
that middle of the chain breaks, the chain is useless."
Yeah, if anybody knows about putting that maximum pressure on a chain, you're going to find that it breaks at its weakest link. Whoever that is in your investigation could be the person who screwed this up. And I've heard rumors of misplacing thumbprints and all of this. We really just don't know. But there is that human element, which I think you were trying to speak to.
And I think that's another reason why law enforcement doesn't talk a lot about this, is because then some of the mistakes that they may have made could come out in the open and could potentially taint this investigation, a la the crappy job they did prosecuting OJ and the gloves that didn't fit, and et cetera, et cetera. And the last thing they want to do is start talking about their investigation and running their mouths and
Or Doug Carter's career.
yeah,
Imagine
or making themselves look bad.
Imagine this could taint his career if it doesn't go well.
And I feel bad because I genuinely think most of these people mean well. And like I said, I hope that if that's the case, that doesn't take more of the headlines than the fact that they actually caught this guy eventually. Because, these guys are out there, they're not home with their families. having to track down all these
Well,
leads for
Doug
years.
is. Let's not make any mistakes. Doug Carter's home every night with his family.
Hmm.
And that's why he mentions the frontline investigators, because
Hmm.
his job is kind of like, I don't know, when you turn on a news broadcast and you see the anchors, they're not the ones that are out there chasing most of the stories. It's that group behind them that are on the computers, and they're the ones that are presenting it. That's who Doug is. He's like an anchor, for ISP. He's not part of the investigation per se.
Sure. So I'm interested to see where this all leads because, boy, a lot has happened in the past 5 or 6 years, and
The last year,
yeah, it's been crazy to follow this case. It's been crazy to see the twists and turns, and the worst part is I don't think we've seen anything yet. I think once this goes to trial and stuff starts coming out, it's just going to be fireworks, and this poor town of Delphi is probably just going to go through living hell again for a while.
yeah, I feel like this was some kind of strategy. This whole, oh, let's blame it on social media and the prosecutor. Oh, we're going to keep this sealed. I think this is all just part of a strategy to allow some time and to make sure that this case bounces out of Delphi into maybe a larger jury pool.
It
And
needs to, and it needs to bounce possibly even out of state if they can legally do that.
yeah, if we can get it into a large county with a couple large cities with a very experienced judge, yeah, I mean, this guy's going to get a fair trial, and I think we can wrap it up.
Well, fingers crossed because I'm glad that Becky Patty came out the other day after all this happened and said, people fail to realize and they forget these are our real lives. This I know plays out like a soap opera, but
Hmm.
you can just tell. You just look at her face; she just looks tired. I feel so bad for her and all the things and the fake accusations people probably made about her and
Yeah, she didn't
Chelsea.
sleep. If you look at the footage from the presser, if you look at her, Anna, like Doug Carter, you can tell he slept. He had time to process whatever information it was. Her, no, she hadn't slept. So I'm wondering if they did share something with her, like a piece of information, some shocking information, maybe, um, just to kind of dull the force of it a little bit, maybe when it comes.
It's possible. It really, really is. Who knows? Maybe, like you said, maybe they found a trophy. Maybe, God forbid, they found a snuff film. I pray that no jury ever has to view anything like that. Because rest assured, if there is a film like that, the jury will have to be exposed to it. As disgusting as that is, I pray
Yeah,
that.
and we don't know. We know that Anthony shots and all that stuff, the catfishing, but there could have been something going on behind the scenes, that we don't know about. Grooming or stuff like that could have been going on with Abby or Libby and this gentleman.
I feel so bad for the family. Can you imagine? And I don't know how much they go on social media, but I know we know Kelsey's on social media all the time. The amount of stuff that you would have to read. I mean, I work as a journalist and people leave negative comments once in a while, and even those bother me. I'm human, no matter
Yeah.
how good of a job I do. Even when I think I've done something perfectly, there's always some negativity, and it affects you. And I can't even imagine being the family and having to see and hear some
Well,
of the things.
to me, it's the human experiment. There's basically all these different type of personality types, and not everybody's going to see. We're looking at the world completely different through a different lens. Like we're not seeing the same thing. A lot of us, but a lot of us we can see. We are looking through the same lens, and we got to learn to communicate with the people who aren't seeing it the same way that we are.
Yeah, it's why I think that social media and the internet is the greatest humanity's probably greatest invention and also its worst at the same exact time. It's such a double-edged sword that fascinates me every time I have to log on and use it. It's capable of so much good and so much evil all at the same
Well,
time.
it's such an experiment. I mean, every time I see somebody comment, I just study it. It's like everything is just part of some experiment, really.
Yeah, and we're all part of that too. And
Yep.
it's some days I wish I could just log off, but like we're at a point in our life and our evolution where everything is connected to our devices. You can't get into a sporting event with a paper ticket anymore. It's pretty much unwittingly been forced upon us, and here we are, for better or for worse.
I just
So-
say hold on to your individuality if you can. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and the good thing is, that sort of thing also leads to channels like yours, like mine, like others people, where you could see that there's people out there trying to do good for other people. And that's what the internet needs to be. It needs to be more people like you, or more people like, other channels and places out there that they know that the intent of their channel is to better somebody's life, whether it's for an hour, for a day, for a lifetime. And as long as we stick to that and keep fighting the good fight, there's always going to be people who are critical of things, of us. And that's one of the reasons why I brought my channel back. It's like, look, I can sit and be self-loathing about all the bad people that there are in the world for only so long before I realize, hey, I'm more powerful than that. I'm not going to let somebody take
Well,
my
don't be
powers taken away from me.
discouraged.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, I want to give Haley the last word. Haley.
Yeah, she's been very insightful if she's still there.
Yeah, I guarantee she's still there listening.
Thanks, Luth. I appreciate you having me on. I really don't have any other words besides I love your channel, and I'll
you.
see you again soon.
Unsolved? Anything?
That should do it. Let's just, again, be thankful for law enforcement officers and that there are people out there in the world who can solve crimes like this, even if it does take 6 years. Hats off to you guys.
Hats off. Thank you, guys. I love all of you. Enjoy the rest of your night, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Bye.